In this video, you'll learn how to build a great Python automation project that can help manage your emails. Specifically, we're going to build a script that can automatically unsubscribe from all of those annoying email lists so you don't need to do it manually. I know many of you watching this have hundreds, if not thousands of unsubscribe links you need to click. So rather than doing that yourself, we're just going to write a script that will do it for us. So let's go ahead and dive in. I promise this is cool and you're going to learn a lot. Okay, so before we start writing a ton of code here, what I want to do is break down this problem into smaller subproblems, which is a really good exercise and something we should always be doing before we write any code. So I'm going to challenge you at this point. Before you even listen to me, we know what we want to build, right? Kind of a script that automatically unsubscribes from emails. So can you think of about 4 or 5 different steps that we might need to go through before we can eventually solve this problem? I want you to break it down into the smallest problems you can and see if that will help you just think about the problem better. Now I'm going to do this for you, but keep in mind I've done this thousands of times, so obviously my thought process will be probably a bit more fluent than some of yours if you're just starting out. So the first thing I think of immediately with this type of problem is we need to connect to our Gmail or to whatever our email server is. Maybe it's Gmail, maybe it's Hotmail, but in my case it's Gmail. So how do I connect to Gmail from Python? That's problem number 1. Now that's a lot easier to solve than writing the entire script at once. So I can reasonably go to ChatGPT or I can go to Google and I can probably figure that out in just a few minutes. Now the next thing I need to do is read through emails. Okay, so I've connected, but how do I actually read and parse these emails? So we connect to our email, we search through the emails, we start kind of parsing them, and then within the email, we want to take out any links that say unsubscribe or maybe contain that in the text. And there might be some edge cases around that, some weird things we need to consider, but that's at least what I want to do. Then I want to take those unsubscribe links and I want to actually click on them, or I want to go to that URL to unsubscribe. So those are kind of the 4 steps I thought of, right? Connect, search through emails, find the links, click the links. We can break this down even further, but that's a good starting point and that's enough to get started. So always do that, take a few minutes, think through the problem, and then you can jump into the code. I guarantee you this is the best practice you can learn as a programmer. So I'm going to go in VS Code here and I'm going to make a new file called main.py. Now I know that I'm also going to have some credentials here like a username and a password when I connect to my email. So I'm going to make another file called a .env file where I can securely store these credentials. Inside the .env file, I'm going to make a variable called email and a variable called password, which are equal to empty strings. Notice that they're in all capitals. This is a convention for an environment variable. Now, an environment variable is something that's just on your local computer. The reason we make environment variables is so that other people can use our code. They can put in their own environment variables, and we don't need to share with them our email and our password, for example. So rather than hard coding the email and the password directly in our script, we put it in this separate file. And if we were to share our code with someone else, we wouldn't include this file. This just lives on our local machine. So later when we want the email and the password for our Gmail account, I'll put it here, but I won't share this with you when I put the code linked in the description, and you guys will have to make your own .env file with the email and the password, and then this code will work for you. Okay, so step 1 is to connect to our email, but since I'm using this environment variable file, I know that I do need to install this package, which is called python.env. So go to your terminal or your command line and install this, pip install python.env. Okay, if you're on Mac or Linux, you can change this command to pip3, and if that doesn't work, you could try python-m pip install. Okay, so I'm going to install python.env. I've already got it installed here, and this is going to allow us to load in this environment variable file. If you weren't sure what that is or how to do this, again, you could ask AI, you could go to Google, you could search it up, but I'm just saving you the time because I already know this. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to say from .env import load.env, and we're just going to call this load.env function. And what this does is just load in this environment variable file. So now we can start using these credentials. Now, again, I know from my email that I'm going to have some kind of username and I'm going to have some kind of password. And I want those to be equal to what I put in this file. So in order to get those, I can say os.getEnv, and then I can get I'm actually going to call this email, and then os.getEnv, and I can get my password. Now I also need to import OS. So let's import that here and let's fix my spelling. Okay, so I've just handled the credentials and loading my environment variable file. We have the email, we're loading it from the get env function, right? Get environment variable, and same with the password. Great. Next thing I need to do is connect to my email. So what I'm going to do is make a function and say connect to mail. Now inside this function, I need to connect using kind of one of many different options. Now, the way I came up with this code is I simply went to ChatGPT. I said, hey, I want to connect to email, specifically to read emails. Can you give me the simplest option to do this? It gave me a few different options. I found the simplest one. I tried it out. It worked. So that's what I ended up using. The only reason I knew to do that is because I broke the problem down and I asked ChatGPT for a really simple prompt, a small amount of code. So I knew that it was going to give me something with high accuracy as opposed to asking it to just solve the entire problem at once, or it could give me something that really isn't what I want. So what I found here is I need to import the IMAP-lib, and I also need to import the email module. Now inside of connect to mail, I'm just going to copy this in because I forget exactly what it is. It is mail.imaplib, okay, dot, and then this is imap4_SSL. And then I need to put here the server that I want to connect to. Now this is my email server. And to find the email server, you can just search on Google, what is the email server for Hotmail, for Gmail, etc. In my case, we're using Gmail. So I'm going to go with imap.gmail.com. Okay. Next thing I need to do is select what kind of inbox, I guess, or what area of my email that I'm connecting to. So I can say mail.select, and then I'm going to select the inbox. But before I can do that, I need to make sure that I log in. So to do that, I can say mail.login, and then I can pass my username and my password. Okay, then I can return this mail object, and this should allow me to connect to my email. So there you go. That's step one done. Wasn't that hard. Now what we need to do though is we do need to fill in the email and the password. So for the email, you can just put whatever email you want to connect to, but for the password, we actually need to put something known as an app password. Now, in order to get your app password, just open up Google. So I'm going to open up Chrome here. Click on your Gmail account and click on manage your Google account. I'm going to meet you at that page just so I don't leak my email. Okay, so from here, you need to enable two-factor authentication if you don't already have it enabled, and then you can search for app password. Now, this is a unique password that you can use specifically for doing something like this, connecting to Gmail from like a Python script or from code. So what you do is just search app password. You'll see app passwords pops up here. And then from here, you're going to have to make a new app password, and then you can use that in your script. Okay, so make the app password. Again, all you have to do is enable two-factor authentication, search app passwords, make a new one, copy that password, and for the password, put it here. So I'm now going to put my email in my password. I'm not going to leak it to you, so I'm not going to show this file anymore. But again, the password is not your actual password. It is the app password. Okay, so now what I want to do is move on to step 2, which is search through my emails. I want to look at them and just kind of see what the emails actually are. So to do that, I'm going to make a new function, and I'm just going to call, search for emails. Call this whatever you want, really. And inside of here, I'm going to start by connecting to mail. So I'm going to say mail is equal to connect to mail, and that's going to give me some mail object. Now, before I forget, I'm just going to call mail.logout at the bottom of this function so that I log out of the mail server when this function is finished. Okay, now inside of search for email, we can search for emails using some kind of filters, just like we would in Gmail. And in my case, what I'm going to do is search for all of the emails that contain the text unsubscribe. So to do that, I'm going to go underscore, comma, search underscore data is equal to mail.search. And then I'm going to say none. And then in single quotes, important you put single quotes here, I'm going to put a set of parentheses and I'm going to say body. And then in double quotes, unsubscribe like that. Now this is a mail filter and I'm looking for the unsubscribed text inside of the body. It's important that you have the double quotes in the single quotes so that you can actually use the quotes properly here. Okay, so now we've got this search data. And by the way, the reason why I'm putting the underscore here is it does return another value to us as well that we don't care about. We just want kind of the search results or the search data. So that's why I'm putting this here. Okay, now if we look at this function here, what it actually returns to us is a list containing data, and it also contains a type. So what I need to do is I just want to get the data, and then you see the data is a space-separated list of matching message numbers. So I want to get all of those message numbers. So to do that, I'm going to say data is equal to the search data at index 0 dot split. Now this is going to grab the first element inside of search data and split this, because again, this is a space separated kind of list of all of the message numbers. So now we're going to have all of the message numbers, and what we can do is search for those numbers. So I'm going to say for number in, and then this is going to be data. What we're going to do is say underscore comma data is equal to mail dot fetch, and we're going to fetch this specific number. Okay, so this will actually give us the content of the email. And then what I need to specify is this, inside of parentheses, RFC 822. Now this RFC here is a command that tells the email server to give us all of the email. So it's just a specific format, RFC. You don't need to worry what that means, but it just says, hey, give us all of the contents of the email. Because that's what we want to get. Okay, so we say underscore data mail.fetch. This then gives us access to that data. Same thing, you don't worry about the first value. That's why we put an underscore there. And now that we have the data, what we can do is start parsing through it. So now what we're going to do is say message is equal to email dot message from bytes. And we're going to pass data at index 0 and then index 1. Now, what we need to do is we need to convert the bytes type that's being returned here into a message type in Python so that we can parse it and kind of grab out the different text, for example. So that's what this is doing. I understand it's a little bit confusing. It's just kind of how email works. And with data, you can see here that this is equal to some response data. Inside of there, we grab the 0th index and then the first, and that gives us the content of the email that we're specifically looking for. All right, so now that we have the message, this is in like a Python object that we can kind of look through more easily. What we're going to do is we're going to check if this is a multi-part message, because sometimes we can have attachments, sometimes we can have just different parts of the email. Like we can have an HTML component to the email. So we need to check what the type of the different parts of our message is and just look through the main text components. So we're going to say if message.is underscore multi-part like that, then what we want to do is look through all of the parts. So we're going to say for part in msg.walk. When we walk through the message, this just means that we're stepping through all the different parts that it has. And now for each part, we're going to check if this type is text. So we're going to say if the part.get underscore content underscore type is equal to text slash HTML, then what we're going to do is we're going to decode this HTML to look for specific links in it. So we're going to say HTML underscore content is equal to the part.get underscore payload. Okay, and we're going to say decode is equal to true, and then we're going to decode this. Okay, so what this is going to do is it's going to go to the specific part. It's going to grab the actual content of that part. It's going to decode it for us into a format that we can actually read and parse through. And then again, we're going to call decode, and this is just going to give us a normal Python string. I know it's a bit weird. You don't need to understand all of it, but it's just how email works. There's a lot of kind of decoding we need to do to actually grab the correct content. Okay, so now we have the HTML content, and if we want to look at it, we can print it out and kind of see what we're getting. So let's test that, but we also need to handle what happens if the message is not multi-part. Because if the message is not multi-part, we just have one part. So what we're going to do is we're going to say the content underscore type is equal to, and this is going to be the message.get underscore content type. If we can type this in correctly, we're going to say the content is equal to message.get underscore payload. Okay, decode equals true, and then same thing, we're going to say dot decode, and then we're going to say if the content underscore type is equal to the text slash HTML. Same thing, we can print the content, and actually that should be good for now. Okay, sweet. So we still need to grab the links, which is the next step. But for now, at least, what we're able to do is search through our emails, and we're kind of looking at the different parts and types of the email. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to call this function search for email, and I'm going to run my code and test it out. Now, really, I should have tested this earlier, but let's just make sure this is working before we go any further. So let's go here and let's go Python main.py. And let's see if we're able to look through some emails, and you can see we are, and it is printing out all of the HTML that it's found for the emails that contain unsubscribe. Great, so I just wanted to test that to see if that is working. And you can see we're printing HTML, we're printing the content, we're able to search through the different emails, and all is good. Again, I understand some of the syntax is a little bit confusing. Don't worry a ton about it. It's just kind of what we need to do to parse through the email. I can't really explain it too much better than that. Okay, so now we have searched through the emails, and part 3 is to actually get the unsubscribe links. Now, because we're looking through HTML text, which is the most common type of emails, at least that contains the unsubscribe links, what we can do is use something known as beautiful soup. Well, how did I come up with this? I simply went to ChatGPT. I said, hey, I have some email content. It's text, HTML. I want to find the unsubscribe links. What's the easiest way to do that? It said you can use beautiful soup. So I tried using beautiful soup. It worked, and that's why I'm showing it to you, okay? So I'm trying to give you a bit of insight into my thought process here. I usually go to AI, I ask the best way to do things, I have some intuition about it, and then it can kind of guide me in the right direction, but ultimately I make the final decision, and I make sure that what it's giving me makes sense. So in order to use beautiful soup, which is simply an HTML parser, what I'm gonna do is install that. So I'm gonna go to pip, and I'm gonna say pip install, and then this is beautiful soup 4. If I spelt that correctly, I believe I did. Okay, so install beautiful soup 4, then we can import that and we can use it to parse through our HTML content. So I'm going to say from BS4, which is beautiful soup 4, import, and then this is going to be beautiful soup. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a function, and this function is going to take in some HTML content and simply find all of the unsubscribed links for me. So to do that, I'm going to say define extract underscore links underscore from underscore HTML. I'm going to take in the HTML content, and I'm going to say soup is equal to beautiful soup. And then I'm going to pass to this the HTML content, and I'm going to say that I want this to be an HTML parser. Okay, so this is how beautiful soup works. You can pass the content, which is a string. You can say that you want it to be an HTML parser. Then it's going to go parse the HTML and give you a better interface for extracting things like the A tags or the links. So now to get all of the links, I can write a Python comprehension. So I can say links is equal to link and then href, because I want to get the actual link itself from the tag. And then I'm going to say for link in soup.find underscore all, and then I'm going to say a, and then href is equal to true. So what I'm doing here is this is going to give me all of the links. So I'm saying, okay, I want to get the href, which is the location the link is going to, for every single link in soup.find all, find all of the links where href is equal to true. Sorry, this should not be a string. However, I only want to do this if the link contains the unsubscribed word. So I'm going to say if unsubscribe is in link href, okay, dot lower. All right, so I'm saying grab all the links for each link that we find, but only if this unsubscribe word is in this text. Perfect. So that's going to give me all the links, and then I can simply just return these links. Perfect. So this will allow us to get the links, but what I want to do now is I want to start accumulating all of these links in a list. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to say links is equal to an empty list. Then instead of printing my HTML content, I'm going to extract the links. So I'm going to say links.extend, and I'm going to extend this with the extract links from HTML, and I'm going to pass my HTML content. Okay, we're going to do the same thing here, except this is going to be content, not HTML content. And what the extend function will do is it will simply take a list and add all of the elements from that list to another list. So after we run through all of this, it should find all of the links, and then we should have them in this list, which we can then eventually return here. Okay, perfect. So now we've got all of the links. Step 3 is complete. And what I want to do is just print them out and make sure this is working. So I'm going to say links is equal to search for email. And then I'm going to print out the links. And we're just going to make sure that we're collecting those in the list. So let's run this code and see what we get. Okay, great. So I get a bunch of links popping up in this list, which is what I was expecting. So now what I want to do is click on the links. Okay, so we finished 3 steps. Notice we've gone step by step, so it's made it a lot easier. Last step is to click the links. So now that I have this, I want to click on them. Now, how do I click on a link? Well, there's multiple ways to go about doing this, but the simplest is to use a module from Python called the request module. Now, the request module just allows us to go to a URL, and that's really what clicking the link does. 90% of the time when you click on the unsubscribe link, by simply visiting that URL, it has like a special token in it usually, that's why the links are so long, it will automatically just unsubscribe you. Now, obviously, there's a lot of links where you need to press buttons and the page can look a little bit different. That's a lot more advanced. I'm not going to show that here, but what we can do is we can click all the links and then we can save all of them, which I'll show you how to do, so that if some of them didn't work, the user can at least just go through all the links themselves without having to search for them in their email and just click them and fill out the form. Still going to be significantly faster than having to find all of them in their inbox. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to import the request module. Now, this is another module that we need to install, so make sure that you install that from pip. So go pip install requests like that, and this allows you again to send HTTP requests. So now we can write a function. So let's just say define click underscore link. We're going to take in some link, or we could take in all the links really, but let's just take in one link. And then inside of click link, we're going to visit that link. So we're going to use a try because sometimes errors can occur when you try to visit links. So we're going to say try response is equal to requests.get, and we're just going to try to get this link. Then we're going to say if the response.status underscore code is equal to 200, this means it was successful. We're going to print successfully visited, and then we'll print out the link. Okay, and let's just fix this. Okay, successfully visited link. Otherwise, we're going to print failed to visit. Okay, and then link, and then we will say error code, and then this is going to be response.status code, just so we can see what the error actually was. And then we're going to accept the exception as E, and we're simply going to print error with, and then we will do the link, and then we will say the error, which will be string, and then E. Okay, so all I'm doing is I'm just trying to get this link. I'm checking the status code. If it's 200, it means it was successful, so we can print that we visited successfully. Otherwise, we can say failed for whatever reason, and then if there's an error, so some other error that we don't handle here, we can just print out what that error is. Great, so now we just need to click the links. So we have links, we search for them, and now we're going to say for link in links, and we're going to say click link, and then pass that link. Sweet, so let's try this out and see if this works. So we're going to open this up and run, and let's see what we get. Okay, so I just let this run because it took a second. You can see it's kind of successfully visiting all of these links, and then it says failed to visit for a few of them. So that's fine. It's going to happen with some of the links that are clicking. Maybe we've already clicked on it, so for some reason it's giving us an error, but you get the idea. It did successfully click some of these. Okay, great. So now that that's working, the last thing I'm going to do is just show you how we would save these links in a file, just to make sure that if some of them don't work or we want them after to maybe manually test out, we have all of them. So just like we have this for loop and we're clicking all of the links, what I can do is just write a little bit of code here to save these to a file. So let's make a function, just say define save underscore links. Okay, and then what we'll do is take the links and we'll just write them to a text file. So writing to a text file is super simple. We can say with open, and we can say links.txt. We can choose the mode we want to use. I'm going to use W mode, which stands for write and override. So this means if the file already exists, it will delete it and kind of override it. If it doesn't already exist, it will make a new one. So be careful when you use W mode because it will delete any file that already exists and make a new one. But that's fine because we're going to just be adding all the links to this file. And we're going to say as f, and then we're going to say f.write, and I'm going to do a \n dot join the links. Now what this is going to do is it's going to take this list of links and it's going to join them together in a string, but every single link will get separated with a \n. So it takes every link, puts a \n between them. The \n is the new line character, which means go to the next line in the file so that all the links will appear on a different line. And that's literally it. That's all you need to do. And then it will automatically close the file for you because we use this with syntax. So then after we try to click all of them, we can just say save links and then links. And then if we run this now, what will happen is it will make a new file that contains all of those links. So let's quickly run this and test it out. Okay, Python main.py, and let's see what we get. All right, so the script is finished, and you can see now that we have our file that contains all of the different links. Now notice all my links are the same pretty much, or they're slightly different, but the same website, because I'm using a relatively new email that I haven't signed up for a lot of stuff on. That's purposeful for this video, but for you guys, probably gonna have a lot of unsubscribed links, and hopefully most of them will just have automatically been clicked by this code. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the code. I will mention that obviously you'd probably want to set this up on some kind of scheduler so that it runs maybe every week or every month, or you can just run it manually if you want to do that. But this isn't going to automatically be detecting like new emails that come to your inbox. It's kind of manual, like you run it once and then it should just work for your entire inbox. But you could also set this up to just look in, the current month, for example, or since the last time it was ran, and you can kind of adjust this script and make it your own. I will put this in the description in case you guys just want to copy this code and use it yourself. But I think this is a great kind of beginner automation project and shows you what's possible with Python. I know I didn't build this completely from scratch. That would take a long time in this video, but I did want to kind of break down my thought process and how I did go about building it, so you understand that I broke this into steps. I solved one step at a time and noticed that it wasn't overwhelming. There wasn't too much to take in at once because of the way that we built this out. Hopefully you learned from this project, and if you do want to get better at Python, coding, you're interested in just kind of technology in general, then make sure you do check out the sponsor of today's video, which is Brilliant. Brilliant is where you learn by doing with thousands of lessons in math, data analysis, programming, and AI. They adopt a first principles approach, ensuring you understand the why behind each concept. Every lesson is interactive, engaging you in hands-on problem solving, which has proven to be 6 times more effective than simply watching lectures. The content is developed by top-notch educators, researchers, and professionals from renowned institutions like MIT, Caltech, and Google. Brilliant emphasizes enhancing your critical thinking abilities through active problem solving rather than memorization. As you learn specific subjects, you're simultaneously training your mind to think more effectively. Consistent daily learning is crucial, and Brilliant makes it effortless with their bite-sized lessons, allowing you to acquire meaningful knowledge in just a few minutes each day, perfect for replacing idle screen time. Additionally, Brilliant offers a comprehensive range of computer science and Python courses, as well as extensive AI workshops guiding you from a complete beginner to an expert through practical, hands-on lessons. Try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days by visiting brilliant.org/techwithtim or click the link in the description. You'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription.